Excuse me, can we appoint to follow you?
Sure. Do we have one? Oh.
Thank you. I think there's one.
Christian from Kepling and Freeman Associates. That works. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. All right, so I'll start back over here. Let's see if I can find my pointer. Here's what I'm talking about. This is the main offices and the laboratory space here. This building here is the shop, repair, and there's a little bit of testing associated with it. And then this right here is a shed building. So in laying out this site, the function of the use is really important here, making sure that the usage between the buildings and how the circulation and the product moves through the testing is important in the layout. So as I was saying, this area here, these two spaces are connected, and there's a little drive-in bay here for trucks who will be handling the tested material in these dumpsters here, which is 100% recycled. To the east of that is a shop repair building. It has a testing office in the west portion of it. It has 3 two-way bays. So that's right here in the center. So that allows a vehicle to go either way through there. And then to the right of that, there's two one-way repair bays. And on the other side, there's 2 bays as well. And that's for dropping off the testing materials. And then north of that, there's a shed. This is going to be for staging vehicles that will need to be repaired. This whole project has a total of 47 company vehicles associated with it, in addition to its employee parking areas. That's where we've sort of formulated our parking chart from, was just looking at that. And we actually have more spaces than are necessary. So there's some space for visitors or anyone who's coming into the office. The main intent of having this large building here, the shop, repair, and office buildings, the architect has actually taken so much care to lay that out that the vehicles actually sort of stacked together, so that this site's not just going to have tractor trailers and trucks all over it. It's going to look nice and tidy. The bigger vehicles are going to be housed within the buildings and off-site, so that the people can function and move through, and the testing material goes nicely between the buildings and into the dumpsters, and it's really efficient, and it's not sloppy or messy. So I'll just get into the circulation now, if you don't mind. So it is important that this bay area here can be accessed from both directions, so that within this, if there's any repairs needing to be done to the bigger trucks, the specific equipment that is used for these highly specialized trucks is located in those bays, in that if there's a repair on the left side of the truck, it could come in from here and vice versa. So those bays, it's really important that those are 2-way bays. As you can see by the turning movements, it works both ways for tractor trailers. It's an extensively paved site, but that's kind of the only way that we could see it working as far as functioning for those large vehicles. Updates to the EAF and the site plan. So the first rendition we sent to you guys, the function on site, the sort of staffing and the actual movement of the product between the buildings, it wasn't working out in a way that our client was happy with. So we wanted to update you, give you an updated plan before we came before you, so that we're presenting something that we might actually do. And the EAF has just been updated to correspond with that as well. As I said, with the parking, there's 57 employees. I think I said the wrong number of company vehicles. It's 34 company vehicles. And we currently show 114 spaces, which is 23 spaces greater than what would be required by our use, which would be 91. So we have, I'll just repeat that, we have 114 spaces, which is 23 greater than the 91 required by use. And then the site has come with its own set of difficulties. It's very flat. There's, in red, faint lines, you can see there's some drainage areas on there. We're going to need to determine how to adequately take care of the stormwater. And that includes snow storage. Those 2 things are sort of hand in hand here. And then most recently, I guess I'll get into that now, the reason that we had opted to maybe cancel this meeting, we've learned, and I'll just hold this up here. The northern east-west portion of the site is actually technically encumbered with an easement. So this pink rectangle is, I'll outline it here, goes from this property line straight over. So all the area north of that on our site is technically encumbered by an easement, which is attached to this square property here, north of the Revelations Hair Studio at 8460. After talking with National Grid, it seems like they're in the camp of maybe being willing to sell it. Currently, our design team is going to go down that path if that were not to happen, because there's extensive time limits and sort of red tape associated with acquiring that parcel, which is currently our plan. If we did not do that, we would opt to move all our buildings south. The current way things are, though, we are planning on acquiring this parcel here and dismantling this associated easement so that we can build our buildings here. The reason that this existed was National Grid had previously wished to build a substation either over here or on this whole parcel as a whole.
On the whole site.
Right. And they asked for this connection. Either way, we spoke with Pam Aspinall. She's sort of our go-between over there. And she said there's really no use for it anymore. So
They're gonna build a substation behind us.
right. At the, what is it, Public Workspace or something? Yes. That's currently where we are. And we also have from the architects just a little rendering of what this came out at like 3 today, what the sign and site would look like from the road. We are trying to make it a little friendly to the street, add some green space, so you're not just looking at some big buildings and some moving around trucks. There'd be a illuminated, uplit, mounted or sign panel down here. Questions or concerns, let me know, please. That's all I got. Thank you for your time.
Mr. Abbey. I'm curious for one thing, and you're mentioning that building to the east, 2 areas marked for repair. What specifically, what type of repair do you anticipate?
So because it's hard to explain, the trucks that they use are highly specialized. We're not just talking about Tacomas, we're talking about perhaps a drilling rig apparatus that has a specific, maybe it has pumps or tanks on it, and maybe a connection to the tank is loose and needs a repair. They have staff and the mechanisms on hand to repair that vehicle, and that needs to be there. It's very specialized to those vehicles. So they kind of take care of their own stuff. So if you have a broken specialized vehicle, you have to have the specialized repair equipment associated
I
with
would
it.
assume that would include oil changes and actually hydraulic fluid
That's a good question.
changes.
Yes.
Okay, that would have to be dealt with, so there's adequately storage and disposal
Correct.
to the codes. All for now. Thank you.
Thanks.
Mr. Snyder? You guys probably test concrete cylinders from construction sites.
CME does, yes.
One thing, there used to be a test site on 31. I like recycle, but I know that not only myself, but many people would go, and since you take X number of cylinders, but you only bust a couple of them, you might want to think about a way of making uncrushed cylinders available to the public, because then you don't pay to have them hauled away.
I mean, like a
people make-
borrow pit or
They
something.
make walls out of them.
Yeah.
I mean, driveway edges. I mean, again, if that's something, it's just another detail when you get into this thing to look at.
Okay.
The truck movement, I guess I'm a little surprised that you don't seem to have a way for a truck to go around the whole site, like to the east of the repair building, where you show green space. I do love green space,
Yes,
but at the same time, you may want to think about, you know, if a tractor trailer comes in and you didn't want them, you know, you did, I guess you could drive through your building if your building's big enough, but that
right,
maybe wouldn't work either.
right.
I love the layout. I mean, the place has been vacant for 8 years or something like that. I think it's a nice use of the area, so I'm positively looking at what we would do through this. Your cohort would come right
Oh,
up.
sure.
Ah,
I'm the owner of CME Associates. I was just kind of sitting back, letting Christian take the reins here. So just to clarify, we have one tractor trailer. We have another rollback truck, which is similar to a tractor trailer, but just slightly smaller. So it requires like a CDL-B instead of a CDL-A driver's license. The intent is to get rid of the tractor trailer eventually, so you won't really see a lot of tractor trailer traffic. But we would have another rollback. The specialized equipment that you had asked about previously are drill rigs. The drill rigs are, the purpose is to determine the soil conditions underground. And everything that we have for those drill rigs is stored internally inside of the shop space. And then the other question that you had asked was about the maintenance. And like Christian said, we really only do maintenance on our own vehicles. We have an internal mechanic who is awesome. He can pretty much do it all. So anytime that we have any issues with any of our vehicles, he generally takes care of that for us.
yeah, so oil water separator is something that obviously you'll be including.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Thank you. Anything
I'm
else?
done.
Mr.
Now.
Bloss?
This question might go to Mr. Jermaine. If the northern portion of that property is encumbered, what can we do until we know that it's taken care?
Right. Yeah, I can get that information into the town.
Okay. No, I think it's a good project for the town and I like the setup.
Thanks, Don. Yeah, I have to agree that it's nice to see something happening at the site. And, you know, the Turkey Farm was a restaurant I went to often years ago, but, so I'm excited to see this project move forward. Can you kind of describe exactly what happens on site, the kind of traffic, the truck flow in and out?
I'll let Leslie know.
Sure. So we're a professional services company, so we are going onto job sites and testing different construction materials to make sure that the quality meets the engineering specifications, as well as New York State Building Code requirements, and if it's concrete, the concrete specs. And so generally what happens is the construction sites start pretty early in the morning in the summer times. So our technicians start to shuffle in around 4:30 to 8 o'clock in the morning. And they'll come in with their personal vehicles, they'll load up their gear, and then they'll take the CME vehicle with them for the day. You typically won't see them come back in until, 10, 12 hours later. So there's not a ton of traffic throughout the day, but generally you'll see it during, first thing in the morning and towards the end of daylight in the summer. The work slows down quite a bit in the wintertime. So the traffic that we have in the wintertime is maybe a half of what you see during the summertime.
5-day-a-week operation?
Yes, pretty much. There is some testing that takes place on Sundays or on Saturdays, but very rarely do we see Sunday work.
Great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Steve?
I'm all set, thanks.
Neil, anything additional? Mr. Parrish, I know you're going to review. Do you have anything to? That concludes unless you have anything additional? Sure.
Perhaps the next question for us is, if we do acquire that parcel, in terms of planning, would that require its own site plan application? Or if we acquired it we consolidated. I guess I'm wondering what the next step is in the process after we purchase that. Would that be, we'd come in for site plan with that, or should we do a site plan first and then add that in? Consolidate the sites after the purchase agreement, because we anticipate the purchasing agreement taking, a matter of at least a couple months. And we're trying to do our best to the client and get this moving forward. So I'm just wondering what the board would advise, and if you don't have an answer now, that's fine, we can.
It's an easement on the parcel.
It's both.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
this, I'll explain one more time, just, Liz, could you?
You're gonna buy that, you're gonna buy that
Hold that
building.
up, yeah. So, yeah, the blue, to the left, that blue square mark is right here. And that's a parcel that if we acquired, would dismantle the pink rectangle that's right here. That's the easement that we did not know existed until our surveyor did some digging and came up with the abstract. Correct, but it means our buildings can't be located there.
Does that include the hair salon if you bought are you buying that property? too?
No, that's a separate entity. Currently, yes.
But you're looking at buying that front building as well. So they're gonna
Correct.
add some property to it, which includes the easement that goes across the property. So it's a subdivision, right?
Right. Mhm. Right. Yeah. Right.
You think you can, right?
Oh, we've already begun the process today. Yeah, yeah. I see. Okay,
Neil, when we sold the property to National Grid, we gave them an easement from there to Route 11. So I'm sure that's what they had in mind over there. So I would think it'd be more likely they'd like to just eliminate that.
right. That's what it seemed, it would be bad, we'd be happy to just dismantle the easement running through there, but from what we heard from the representative there, it would entail us buying that parcel to totally get rid of that easement.
Oh, really?
unfortunately.
So then there'd be a line separation, subdivision, right?
Right, right. That's sort of what we gathered so far. Okay, so we'll keep running with this until the purchasing agreement is set, and then we'll just have to re-up and come in with a plan that includes a new parcel. Yeah. Right. Okay,
Perfect.
thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Have a good night. That concludes our agenda item. Any discussions from anybody from the board?